Hello and welcome to another episode of Film Spill, a movie night podcast, with your hosts, Chelsea
and Jackie.
Film Spill, if you don't already know, is a podcast that usually comes out every Thursday. We did take a break last Thursday, but we're back, and we talk about a movie by a female filmmaker every episode. We also discuss women in the entertainment industry in general, play slumber party type games, spill entertainment gossip, and get to know each other, and our guest.
And speaking of guests, this week we are joined by Ailed Verduzco. She is an animator with Onyx, and her work can be found in the recent short Butch, which is a part of the Onyx anthology series based on her true story. So, Ailed, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Ailed. I've been studying animation. I graduated back in 2020 with a BFA in animation, and I minored in creative writing. I also like to study screenwriting. So I guess like my dream job is to hopefully one day work at DreamWorks, either as an animator or somewhere in the story department. That would be amazing. And on the side, also work on my own animated series. That's the dream.
Yes, I love it. I have such an appreciation for animation and all the work and creativity that goes behind it. So I give you props for what you do.
100%. And DreamWorks is a fitting place that you want to end up, because this episode we are talking about Kung Fu Panda 2, which is a DreamWorks movie. But how did you find Onyx, Ailed?
I found Onyx through a mutual friend. Onyx was looking for an animator, and I happened to be available. And that's how I got to working on Butch. And I really loved the story. And, I wanted to do my part in like supporting the LGBTQ plus community. So it was great. We just really had some great chemistry, and I enjoyed animating for that film. And ever since, I've been on that team. And I think it's just really awesome to be a part of a team that's led by so many strong women. And a lot of us are kind of in the same boat, like recent graduates are still in school making films. And I love seeing these projects that everyone just like is so passionate about. So yeah, I just love collaborating with those kinds of projects.
Yeah, everyone should go watch Butch. I just did, and it's really great. And Ailed's animations are adorable and very Lizzie McGuire-esque, which made me very happy because that's something that I grew up watching all the time. So, like a modern take on Lizzie McGuire, I guess.
It was so cute. I loved it. Who came up with the idea for it to be like a Lizzie McGuire theme?
It was actually the two directors. They had the idea to do like a Lizzie McGuire style, and I actually never really watched that show growing up, but I kind of knew what they were talking about, so I did a little bit of studying, and I was like, okay, I can do this, because I really like to do cartoony stuff. And yeah, it just ended up working out really well.
How did you get interested in drawing and animation?
I've always been really into drawing. When I was younger, I would like draw all of my favorite video game characters like Sonic the Hedgehog. And that's what really got me into drawing and kind of understanding character design. But I didn't realize animation was like a thing until I think high school. And it was when I actually watched How to Train Your Dragon, which is another DreamWorks film, where I was like, wow, I was so impacted by the story, and I'm like, that's what I want to do.
That's so nice, because I didn't realize I could get into animation, but just like do production side of it until I got into college, and I was like already like halfway done my major. So it's definitely something that I've gotten myself into a lot more, to be able to tell stories, and especially for like different audiences. Like, it's not just kids, you're doing these stories for adults as well. But yeah, do we want to do our game?
Yeah, so as we mentioned today, we're talking about Kung Fu Panda 2, by Jennifer Yuh Nelson. But first, we're going to do a little game of Truth or Dare.
Do you want to go, Ailed?
Sure, I'll go.
Okay. Truth or dare?
Truth.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
That is a good question. One of my biggest pet peeves is when, like, I'm online, for example, on Twitter, and somebody asks, like, just a random question or something, or, like, they want information about something, and it's like, you're on the internet, just, like, Google it yourself. It could be something, like, really simple, too. So that's, like, something that bothers me sometimes. I'm like, you have the answers at your disposal. Seek it yourself.
That should be an answer that I give to people that are asking me questions. I would just be like, just Google it.
Just send them the link to google.com.
Yeah.
Right.
Passive aggressive.
It's like, copy that question you tweeted and put it into Google. And there you go.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I guess I'll ask next. Jackie, truth or dare?
I'm curious about the dare, so let's see if you have one.
I do have one, and I think it's simple enough.
Okay.
I dare you to pick your favorite item in the room you're in and do a show and tell.
Oh, okay, that's cute. Okay, let me get something real quick.
That's a good one.
I'm excited to see what we're gonna get shown.
So, my boyfriend and I just had our anniversary. And one of the gifts he got me is this little stuffed sloth, because I love sloths, and it is from an eco-friendly company, sustainably made, whatever, because I always try to shop sustainable if I can. But he's a little sloth, and he has very flexible little arms, and he has these little claws on each paw. But I named him Eco. And this is Eco the sloth. So yeah,
Hi, Eco.
My boyfriend, who is also an animator, made me a really cute card too that he drew little sloths on. So I'll just have Eco in my lap for the rest of this episode.
Yeah, very slumber party themed. That's so cute, and congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you. So Chelsea, truth or dare?
Truth.
Okay. I'm using this little generator. Ooh, this is fun. It's movie related. It just happened to be. If Jurassic Park were real, would you visit it?
I don't know, because like dinosaurs look cute and cuddly like bears, but when you actually approach them, they're not cute and cuddly anymore. So probably not. I would be so scared. And they're scary. They have big teeth and can eat me. I don't know, because like dinosaurs look cute and cuddly like bears, but when you actually approach them, they're not cute and cuddly anymore. So probably not. I would be so scared. And they're scary. They have big teeth and can eat me. Little old me.
Cute, and congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, you're just a snack for them.
Yeah, literally. I'm like a Cheez-It to them.
Looking like a snack. A literal snack. Yeah, no, I would not go either. I mean, I guess if we didn't have the movies and stuff, the cautionary tale, maybe I'd be curious, but I'd also be like, that sounds really dumb and also very scary. So I don't know. I feel like I'm too much of a scaredy cat for that. What about you, Ailed?
I think I'd be too scared to go as well. These creatures are like huge and super strong. Like, I don't know if I can even imagine it. It would be cool to see, like, just to observe, but like I need to be a good distance away. But I would definitely go just for like the ambience, because I love the theme from Jurassic Park. It's really fun.
I guess it's my turn to ask. So Jackie, truth or dare?
I'll say truth this time.
Okay. What's the most embarrassing top played song on your phone?
Oh, I'm gonna have to look. I have no shame about my music. I mean, I guess like some Britney, some old school Britney Spears, some "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time." Is that embarrassing?
No, you're just a Britney fan.
I mean, not
Yeah,
a huge
that's
one,
good.
but I appreciate good music, you know. So
I
should I
thought you were
find
gonna say
something
something
else?
like Hannah Montana. Like
Well,
if we were a movie.
if we were a movie, yeah, that song. I gotta listen to that.
That's always stuck in my head for some reason.
I love Hannah Montana though. Like she had some bops too.
Oh yeah.
So truth or dare?
I guess I'll go with Dare this time.
Okay, keeping it fresh. There was one that I saw earlier that was tell a cheesy joke.
I can probably do that one. Let me just think for a moment.
Yeah, of course.
Gosh. It's like when I put on the spot, that's when I like can't think of anything cheesy.
Oh yeah. Or like when people ask me like, "What's your favorite movie?" I'm like, "I've never seen a movie in my life." Like that's just you know.
Yeah. What are movies?
Mm-mm.
I'm just gonna have to like look up a joke because nothing's coming to my brain right now. Okay.
That's okay.
All right. So, why did the Clydesdale give the pony a glass of water?
I don't know. It's probably something so cheesy and that I can't think of it.
I have a guess because I am very cheesy and it's how my mind works. But I don't want to like ruin the punchline if that's what it is. But
I kind of want to see if you're right.
okay. Is it because he was a little horse?
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow, you knew it.
I'm kind of ashamed, but that's kind of how my brain works. So
You know your horses, though. That's good.
I know my horse jokes.
Yeehaw.
Before we get into the movie for this week, we will mention that this conversation will contain spoilers of the movie and probably of the first Kung Fu Panda as well. This movie is available to watch on Netflix only through the end of September. Oh my gosh, it's ending?
I know,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
I watched it and then it gave me that little notification like watch through September 30th or something. So if you want to watch it now or you can rent it somewhere else. But
yes. And it's available to rent on Google Play if you want to pay like $3. I think that's how much they usually are to rent. I don't know if I mentioned that we will be talking about Kung Fu Panda 2, if no one caught that memo in the beginning of our conversation, but just to throw that in there.
I was just gonna ask Ailed why. I have some guesses as to why, just based on her love for DreamWorks, but why you decided to have us talk about this film this week.
Well, you're right. It's definitely involving DreamWorks. I'm a big fan of their films. But it's also just one of my favorite films in general. And I feel like I can talk a lot about it. So it's like a good base point when it comes to like animated films that were directed by women, especially this one. This one is pretty special because of that. But yeah, we'll probably get more into that in a little bit.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch this movie, and I've really been slacking on Kung Fu Panda. I saw that there was a sequel to the first. I watched the first one, I was like, ugh, like way young. So being able to watch the second one and really appreciate the movie for what it is really was great.
Yeah, I love going back to, movies that I watched as a kid and having a little bit of a new perspective, just being like, oh, like I see what they did there, like story wise, or, appreciating more technical aspects. I feel like as a kid, I would just sit down in front of the TV or like go to the movies and just black out. Like I literally have no memories of like certain shows I watch. I'm like, I know I liked that show or I know I liked that movie, but like I have no recollection of what actually happened in there. So
That's a little
it's
scary.
great to revisit. Yeah, a little bit. Maybe I should talk to someone about that. But nothing else is like that though. Just with movies and stuff. Because I feel like when you're a kid, you kind of have a different like way that you watch stuff, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think you pay much attention to what the story is really about. You're just like, oh, this is nice. Oh, yeah, this is entertaining, you know?
Yeah, it's a different experience going back to these movies with like, now you're grown up and you have like just a different way of thinking. It's kind of like a little sad as an animator that I am forced to like study any movie I watch now, like for the story, for the cinematography. I'm like trying to calculate all these beats out as I'm watching the movie. It's like, it's so different now knowing how these things are made, and you can't help but think about all of that as you watch movies.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah, it does take a little bit of the magic out of it, but it also makes you appreciate it in a different kind of way. So,
You get
pros
another
and
different
cons.
magic.
Yes, the magic
Yeah.
of storytelling.
I've watched the trilogy at least twice. I've watched the second one the most because it's my favorite. But I guess coming from the first one into the second one, the reason why I like the second one the most is because it was like so emotional and darker, and I just kind of like diving into those darker themes. And in this film, we really get to kind of see Poe ask questions about like where he comes from and why all these things are happening. And I think it's just really cool when we get to see characters take that internal journey and also kind of get to see the external conflict that comes from that as well. Yeah, I really liked the darkness of this film.
Yeah, I really enjoyed how the story wasn't boring. Like, it kept me entertained, and it kept, till the last 20 minutes of the film, you were still figuring things out that needed to be figured out, you know?
Yeah, there were multiple moments where I was like, I did not expect. I mean, I saw it as a kid, but as I said before, I blacked out. But like, I was like, there's some really emotional beats in Kung Fu Panda too. Like, I was happily surprised. It's about identity and it's about coming to terms with your past and not letting it define you, but learning from it. And it's like, this is some deep shit. And there was like genocide. Like, it's very dark. But I am glad that I got to watch it again and appreciate it for what it is.
Same. I wanted to watch the third one, but it wasn't on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. I don't know where that one is.
Probably on NBC's streaming service, because Universal has DreamWorks now, so it's probably all going there.
Of course they do.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense. Maybe everything's going to Peacock after September.
Ironically, there's a Peacock in this film.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. Wow.
Yeah.
So, a little plot synopsis. Now known as the Dragon Warrior, Poe protects the Valley of Peace alongside his friends and fellow kung fu masters, the Furious Five. However, a dangerous villain threatens Poe's awesome new life with plans to use a secret weapon to wipe out the martial art and conquer China. In order to defeat the new enemy, Poe finds he must recall his past and unlock secrets of his mysterious origins. Only then will he find the strength to vanquish his foe. And that's from Rotten Tomatoes.
So, Jennifer Yuh Nelson, she is the first woman to solely direct an animated feature for a major Hollywood studio. She is the second woman nominated for an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature for her work on Kung Fu Panda 2. She's also Korean American. She was born in South Korea, and she immigrated to the US with her family when she was 4. Jennifer grew up in Lakewood, California, and fell in love with drawing and storytelling at an early age. She watched her mother draw and made up stories with her sisters, which she would then illustrate. Nelson attended Cal State Long Beach. She briefly worked on the real adventures of Johnny Quest and became a storyboard artist for the show Todd McFarlane's Spawn.
She worked as a storyboard artist on several other well-known DreamWorks films before Kung Fu Panda 2, including the first Kung Fu Panda, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, and Madagascar. And she won an Annie Award for Best Storytelling in an Animated Feature Production for directing the opening sequence of the first Kung Fu Panda film. And Melissa Cobb, who was the producer of Kung Fu Panda 2 and also produced the first Kung Fu Panda film, actually encouraged Nelson to direct Kung Fu Panda 2, which was her first feature film. Nelson also directed Kung Fu Panda 3 in 2016, or which came out in 2016, and she in 2018 directed a live action film called The Darkest Minds. Nelson also directed the second season of the Netflix animated series Love, Death, and Robots, which came out this year.
I did watch an interview she did, and I got to see her talk about how she actually got into directing Kung Fu Panda 2. And I thought it was just really inspiring because, like you mentioned, her producer was the one to really push her, because previously Jennifer had been just like doing head of storyboarding stuff. I think that's from what I researched. And so to get pushed into this director role, she really got that encouragement from her team. And I just think it's awesome how she took the role just like any other role she's been given, and she was very successful at it. I know she talked about how like she did have some doubts going in because of just the responsibility of being in charge of so many people too. And one of the things she was very worried is like, I don't want to waste their time, which I'm like, oh, that's some interesting like insight from a director. But overall, I felt like she was just very like always emphasized like kind of the community, just the teamwork of the film. She's very humble and she always like credits her team properly. And I think that's wonderful. It's just really amazing what she did and, where she's going. I can't wait to see what she does in the future.
Yeah, I think it's pretty awesome to hear her story, how she was saying, because I saw an interview with her too, how she was saying how like shy and reserved she is. So to take kind of a director role that you really can't be shy or reserved, you're talking to everyone and you're making decisions, you're making big decisions, because the movie lies on your hands. And I think maybe her reservedness and her shyness helped her to be that kind of like cool, calm, and collected type of role model or like authority figure. Because I know some directors get chaotic, they let the stress get to them, they're rude or whatever the case may be. And it seems like her team loves working with her and she loves working with her team. And on top of that, like this industry is such a team oriented type of thing that if you can't find people that you work well with, like you're stuck doing it by yourself. And you can't really do everything by yourself. Even like the best directors will say like this is a team effort. You need to find yourself a team. Like you can be a jack of all trades, go for it. You just need help in the process.
I think there's this misconception with directing or even just like leadership styles in general that you have to be some kind of like authoritarian or you have to be like very loud and very, like there's a certain like leadership style that you have to have. And I think that's just totally incorrect. I mean, in my experience, like I haven't been a leader of a bunch of projects, but like I like to do it in a much more like friendly and open way so that people aren't like scared to come to you if they do have a problem, because like if you're being an asshole, no one wants to upset you, but like they won't tell you that there's, a hole in the boat or whatever, and then you're going down with the ship, baby. Like I think that also is like a kind of a machismo thing, like that because a director is like, sometimes seen as like a typically male role, there's like all these expectations of like toxic masculinity that come along with it. And when a woman is in the role and is actually like a nice person, it's like, whoa, imagine. Anyway.
But it's true though. I've heard more about male directors being insane with their demands versus female directors, where I've heard nothing. I've always heard that like everyone's humble. Like please correct me if I'm wrong, but if you know of a female director that's rude, let me know. I haven't heard of any, or I haven't heard of any like comments that are made, because People like speaking about their work experiences for sure.
We need more directors like Jennifer.
Yes.
It gives us hope.
We're getting there. I'm seeing more and more female directors, which is amazing because we do need more of us out there, more females in the industry. It's still very male dominated, unfortunately. With this podcast, I hope people start realizing that there's more movies out there that are directed by females.
This probably isn't reflective of like everything, so like take it with a grain of salt. But the LMU animation class for my year, there are two guys, my boyfriend and one other guy, and then everyone else were either women or non-binary people, which is crazy because animation, historically has been so male dominated. So, I hope that that's, I mean, not that it has to be all women and non-binary people, but I hope that, maybe helps equal things out a little bit down the line.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. The situation was same in my school. It was mostly girls in my class or non-binary people. So yeah, I'm excited to see like what the next generation of animation is going to look like, because already we are starting to see, I think, more impact in TV animation. We've had, lots of female showrunners or creators who are leading these shows, and it's really inspiring to see. But I'd also like to see that happen for animated feature films, because I'm not sure. I was trying to do research what other directors have like solely directed their films being female, but there really just is not. There's not a lot, and it's a little shocking. And this film, came out a decade ago, and I just want to see like what the impact of that was, because it's kind of hard to see. Like there's a lot of, co-directors, of course, but we haven't really seen another like sole director.
Yeah, it's true. But I'm hoping that like with people seeing other people do it, that can give them some inspiration. Like I can do it too. Like I can see myself in this role.
Yeah, 100%. That's really interesting, the difference between TV and film. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, there's that difference there, and I hope that it evens out.
So some background on the film. It is from DreamWorks Animation. I'm pretty sure we said that, but just to put it out there again. It was distributed by Paramount Pictures. It started development in 2008 and it finished in 2011. Kung Fu Panda 2 was released on May 26th in 3,925 theaters. There was one other movie released on the same date, and that was The Hangover Part 2.
Pretty interesting.
What a pairing.
I know, right?
Feature.
It's like, which one do I pick? The Hangover Part 2 or Kung Fu Panda 2? The budget was $150 million, and in box office, they made $665.7 million. It was praised for its animation, voice acting, action scenes, and character development. The voice acting, I think that they had a very great cast, and the character development, each of them had their like quirks. My favorite character was Mantis, but because Seth Rogen was the voice of Mantis and it was so good, and the comedy behind that was just like spot on.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you were excited that Seth Rogen was in this movie, even as a very small part.
Yeah. He's like, oh, I don't have daddy issues. My mom ate his head when I was born. But that's like something that happens, but they brought comedy to it. That's what it was really amusing about it.
The natural world is cruel and hilarious. And I learned when I was doing a little bit of research on this film that Guillermo del Toro was a creative consultant, which is super exciting. I love him. Always excited to see when he's part of different projects. Kung Fu Panda 3, the follow-up to this movie, was released in 2016, and it was again directed by Jennifer Yuh Nelson. And then Kung Fu Panda 4 is rumored to be in the works, with Nelson again directing, but there is no official release date as of yet. I was trying to find it on the forums. Everybody wants Kung Fu Panda 4. And Nelson has said that she would do it if it was focused on Po, but we don't know yet.
I just remembered something because we mentioned Guillermo del Toro. I think in the interview I was watching that was brought up too, or in one of the interviews that I read about how like he was kind of brought in the middle of production, and that's like when things really start to like slow down because you're not really seeing a lot of progress because everything's just like in progress. And he kind of came in really like assured Jennifer the story's working, everything's there. You just kind of have to keep going through it because like at once you've been on a project for so long, you probably start to doubt like, is this like really worth it? Like, is this hitting all the points? And I can kind of relate to that just working on my own film projects. But yeah, he was like a nice booster to the whole team.
That's so
That's
cute.
nice.
Oh my gosh. I want Guillermo del Toro to come and like boost me up, hype me up.
So as we mentioned before, this was a 3D computer animated film. And then as this quote by Roger Ebert says, the animation is elegant. The story is much more involving than in the original, and there's boundless energy. And I completely agree. It's really fun because, they're working with animal characters and work martial arts into them. And each character, as I just said, like has their own unique fighting style. And I believe they actually kind of had to make up a new style for the peacock Shen. So that's really cool because they're working, with his big tail and fabric. It was very technical to animate that character, as I heard from interviews and stuff. And DreamWorks is kind of known from setting itself apart from Disney and Pixar with like its more angular and comical but appealing character designs. One of my favorite designs is actually Tigress, and I think it's really cool because she's like this powerful female warrior, but she's not hyper feminized like a lot of other characters we see in animation who are supposed to be female. I really adore her design. Another quote about the animation: visually, the film is a pantheon of beauty, vibrancy, diversity, and delicateness as eye-popping action leaps forward from the beauty of peaceful, exotic Chinese backgrounds. And that's from Behind the Lens online. I also read that, when they were kind of making the environment, of course, it's supposed to be inspired and based like in China, but it's still different enough that even audiences in China watching this could kind of feel like, oh, this is like a really fantastic new place. It's really beautiful. But yeah, lots of fighting choreography. It was all very well thought out, really awesome camera angles. And some of these things wouldn't have been possible in live action, of course. That's the great thing about animation. You can do things that you couldn't do in real life, but you still have to make it believable, and that's the trick. And Kung Fu Panda did that beautifully. They really had to make sure when these characters like fought specifically that it was a lot of like tangible interactions. Like they're not casting magic or spells. Everything comes from the characters like interacting with each other. Like all the strength comes through, even if it's just like they push air, but we can see the air being pushed and hitting another character or something like that. And then, of course, this film also incorporated 2D animation for when we're inside Poe's head, like seeing his memories, flashbacks. And it kind of has like this comic book type feel. I know Jennifer mentioned that she was getting from her own influences from all the anime she's seen and how she kind of was able to put that. And I think the intro of Kung Fu Panda 1 and this continued in Kung Fu Panda 2, of course. I really like those sequences too. And sometimes it would look like the 2D stuff and 3D stuff would kind of blend together, which is also really cool. When Poe is in the costume with the rest of the Furious Five, I guess, oh, you guys made this note. It kind of reminded you of like a video game, I guess, like from the perspective. It's a really great visualization. We got an overhead angle too, kind of running through the city like a maze.
It was like Pac-Man. He would eat the people, like the bad guys, and then he would poop it out.
Oh, yeah. It is like Pac-Man.
Without pooping it out.
Right. It's Kung Fu Panda Pac-Man.
But I like that whole scene. That whole scene, they put a lot of attention to the different points of views that you were getting.
I just think like the shot choices or the like action scenes in this movie are so creative and so unique. Like it was just so exciting to see like, oh, what are they gonna do next? And the way that they use, like, to use a term I learned in film school, the arena of the film. So like the different little towns that they're in, or like just different elements, and then kind of tying them all in together. So they're like melting down these instruments and these pots and pans for the cannons that Shen, the evil peacock, is making. And when Poe, he thinks he's gonna be thrown into the like molten metal in that big factory, he is actually able to grab onto a little instrument, I think, and a pot to kind of like pull himself out and like protect his butt from the hot metal.
I remember.
Yeah, it's just like so many little things like that that are so smart and so entertaining. But I didn't realize until I was watching the end credits that it was collaboratively scored by Hans Zimmer and John Powell. And I was like, no wonder I loved the music. It was Hans Zimmer. Like, who could do an action sequence better than Hans Zimmer, you know?
Yeah, and it's like also important in just movies in general how music drives so much emotion, and oftentimes, you know, you'll hear like these musical motifs sprinkled throughout the movie, and it's very like articulate and very planned out, and you don't really realize it when you're watching it, but it all just works in the end, and it's so beautiful. But yeah, I couldn't think of a better duo, honestly. Like both of these composers, they're just brilliant. I know John Powell also did the music for How to Train Your Dragon, so like I'm very familiar with his work. So epic, and just it gets you very immersed into the movie.
And if any of you guys want to listen to the actual soundtrack, you can find it on YouTube. There are 17 songs, so happy listening. So we do have like a good amount of characters that we're working with in this film. We got Poe, who the voice for Poe is Jack Black. We got Tigress, who is played by Angelina Jolie. Master Shifu, voiced by Dustin Hoffman. Viper by Lucy Liu. Master Storming Ox, played by Dennis Haysbert. Mr. Ping, played by James Hong.
And then we have Master Crocodile, who is voiced by Jean-Claude Van Damme. Master Thundering Rhino, voiced by Victor Garber. Mantis, who is voiced by Chelsea's favorite, Seth Rogen. Wolf Boss, I guess he doesn't even have a name, that's so funny, who he works with, the evil peacock. He's voiced by Danny McBride. Shen is voiced by Gary Oldman, so Shen is the evil peacock. The soothsayer, the little sheep with the little cute glasses, is voiced by Michelle Yeoh. The crane is voiced by David Cross, and the monkey is voiced by Jackie Chan.
So, who was everyone's favorite character?
I feel like I'm just inclined to say Mr. Ping, Poe's dad, because he's just so wholesome, and like, I don't know, I almost cried a couple times when he was like talking about how much he loved Poe, and it's so sweet, and he just like wants him to be safe and loved, and the whole backstory about him like finding Poe or having him left at the noodle shop and then like taking him in and raising a panda even though he's a goose, like it's just so sweet. Adoption stories always like pull on my heartstrings, so I think I would have to say Mr. Ping.
It was such a great ending when, he came to terms with we don't have to be blood to be family. I know that's something that's like a very quoted, but it's true. It's like you don't have to be blood to be family. It's someone who raised you, someone who was there for you. So it was cute, and it made me want noodles. Like I really wanted noodles after I watched the movie.
Ooh, yes.
He was like, tofu noodles?
Yes, please sign me up.
Mm-hmm. Always leaves me hungry. I do really enjoy Tigress. Her fighting style is so cool. It's like very aggressive, but it's like very powerful and cat-like. It's just very fun for me to watch. But I also really like Shen. I just think Gary Oldman did such a good performance, and I can't get enough of him. Like he's trying so hard. And then Poe just like, being Poe just like makes everything so funny. And I guess Shen kind of gets what he deserves in the end. He kind of just let it happen, the cannon falling on him. But yeah, I really enjoyed his performance. It's very fun to watch him.
Yeah, Shen is such an interesting villain. Like, he's actually a pretty nuanced villain for a like kids movie because he's not like totally evil, or at least like he has, you know, reasons why he wants to do what he wants to do. You know, and it's kind of the difference at the core of the movie, like thematically, between Poe and Shen, is that Shen wants to like destroy his past and is kind of letting that guide his present and his ambitions for the future. And Poe is like learning to move forward and use what he has found out about his past to teach him and find that inner peace, like Master Shifu talks about. It's very interesting to have a villain that isn't just like pure evil without any real reason behind it in a kids movie. And I also love his tail and the way he fights. Like, that's super cool. So yeah, I like Shen as well.
I didn't really like him because I don't really like the villain unless there's like a purpose. But at the end, when he had his opportunity to like stop, he didn't stop, and that's what made me not like him or like feel any sympathy for him. And I usually do. I'm like, oh no, like I feel bad. They shouldn't defeat him. Like he could be turned into a good guy. But no, even after giving him the opportunity to stop right then and there, he still tried to kill Poe. And that's not nice.
He's not a nice villain.
Not a nice villain.
It's really interesting that like final moment when they're on the boat and Shen chooses to like attack Poe anyway, but then he kind of like accepts his death. I don't know if you guys remember. There's just like a breath and then like he closes his eyes before the cannon falls on him. And now that I think about it, yeah, he's not a redeemable villain in this case. It just ends so abruptly, but it's, I guess, supposed to be more symbolic than anything.
That some people, even though you're giving them the chance, that they don't change. They still let the past affect who they are. Which, I mean, it's sad, but it's true. Some people really struggle with, like, mentally just dealing with what has happened to them in the past, and they let that define themselves in the present. But I can say that my favorite character, I mean, I already said it, but I can say it again, is Mantis. Not just because Seth Rogen played it, but yes, because Seth Rogen played it, but also just because it kind of reminds me of me. You're small, but you have power. They didn't belittle his character and his fighting abilities just because of the size. They made his fighting abilities just as awesome as the rest of the characters. I do like Poe. I do like Jack Black playing Poe. I don't think that Poe could have been played by anyone else. I was thinking about that. I'm like, Poe wouldn't be Poe without Jack Black. I don't think this trilogy would be the same without him.
That's really true. Yeah, he's the star of the show. And he's such a good voice actor, too. Like, I was actually just imagining him in a booth saying some of these lines was really fun. And Mantis is super cool too. Like, he's really strong, right? Because he can like throw stuff. Like, I forget what all their powers are, but
and they're all pretty powerful. They all can do like pretty cool like fighting techniques.
Yeah, all the characters just work so well together. The action scenes are so good because we get to see everyone working together.
One of the themes is that like teamwork matters. I know that's something that we talked about too. Like, teamwork matters for a lot of different things. And people don't really know how to collaborate in a team. So just knowing that and just realizing that you do need that sense of community, whatever the case may be, I think it's very important. And I'm glad that they brought that into the movie as well, especially that it's being shown to kids. You know, kids need to know that teamwork matters.
Yeah, and that like everyone can contribute something different to the team. We don't all have to have the same skill sets or the same interests, but like everyone, you know, can make the project better, can save China together.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to compare it to like the actual production team or like the entire team behind the film. You know, the teamwork really translated across. Of course, they had a very strong, amazing leader, but yeah, teamwork always wins.
And I really like the strive for inner peace, how they talked about inner peace.
Yeah, it's really nice to see in a film that kids will be seeing, touching on the mental illness aspect of that. You know, Poe has just gone through so much trauma and trauma that he didn't even know he had. And now he has to kind of deal with it all. And of course, you know, he's very scared and doesn't know how to approach it. And it's kind of fun to see the contrast, or like how Tigress kind of comes in and tries to support him, even though she's referred to as this like cold warrior, hardcore, you know, but she still understands, and she just wants Poe to do what's best for himself. And he's able to confront his past in that cool scene with the water drop. That's a really cool scene. That part always like makes me even very emotional. It's just so powerful seeing Poe remember everything, and he chooses to, you know, use that, learn from it, accept it, and still fight for what he believes in.
Yeah, that's it for our discussion of Kung Fu Panda 2. Thank you so much to Ailed for bringing this movie to us and being our wonderful guest and helping us to understand some of the animation behind it. And if there's anything you want to plug, Ailed, for people to follow you or projects you want them to check out.
Yeah, you can follow me and view my art at Dove Dragon. The O's are zeros on Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. We will put that in the episode description.
You can follow us as well on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest. All are at FilmSpillPod. Tell a friend about the podcast if you like, and leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts. That'll help other people find Film Spill too. You can support the podcast at FilmSpillPod on PayPal. And special thanks to Onyx Films for promoting us. You can check out other Onyx projects, including Butch, at onyx-films.com.
And we will be back next week with an episode on Twilight with another special guest, Lana James. This week, the editing and the cover art were done by me.
Until next time, don't cry over a spilled film.